Hello friends, Sarah Sunstone here, bringing you the latest gaming news with Sunnyside Up. Today is September 27th, 2025. Stairway Games, the developers behind Coral Island, shared their latest developer update for September 2025, which very excitingly includes some special announcements and a new roadmap so we can see what's coming next to the game. So let's take a look at everything together. First of all, a big congratulations to the team for selling over 1 million units on Steam. That is incredible, that is super impressive, and it's so nice to see how far the game has come and how many players have got to enjoy it. And that's just Steam. That's not even taking into account PlayStation or Xbox numbers, so that is really amazing news. Of course, they want to say a big thank you. You know, when they first set out as a small Indonesian studio, their dream was very simple: to create the kind of farming game they always wanted to play. And today that dream has grown far beyond what they ever imagined, thanks to all of you. And I absolutely love this celebratory artwork by David. It looks so lovely. We have Raphael on the left here, Alice on the right, and tons of farmers in the center. There's so many lovely details in this artwork, and it just feels so perfect for this celebration. They also shared some free wallpapers that you can download for your phone. And as always, I'll have this developer blog linked in the description for your reference and also so you can follow along. So we have Raphael here with some mangoes. And then we also have the cute little piggy. Now, the next really exciting announcement is that full crossplay is now available for Coral Island. This was included in a hotfix. So now players across Steam, Windows, Xbox, and PlayStation will all be able to connect with each other. So now there's no more barriers in terms of who can play with who. Regardless of your platform, you can play with your friends. And next, let's take a look at the brand new roadmap, which shares a peek at what content will be coming to the game in the next 2 updates. They shared that the upcoming 1.3 update is shaping up to be huge. So to keep content flowing at a steady pace, they've decided to split the update into 2 parts, which I think is a great idea. So the next update that we can expect is 1.2b. And this is going to include some really exciting major and minor features. The first new major feature with 1.2b is a new haunted house. Now, this is likely to appear at the Spooky Festival. There kind of is already mention of a haunted house at this festival, but you're not actually able to go into it or experience it. So that addition sounds really exciting. They're also going to be adding some arcade mini games, which will be so lovely because once you fix up the recreation center and do all the different building additions to it, there is an arcade that you can unlock, but at this time you can only visit it or go on dates or hangouts there, but you can't actually interact with any of the mini games yourself. So this will be really awesome to have. They're also going to be adding the tattoo shop finally, which is really exciting because this is part of the Merfolk Kingdom. We've been able to, see that it's there, go inside, but not actually get any tattoos. So very highly anticipated, very excited about this. And they're also going to be adding a season recap. I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. It could be sort of like our day end summaries, but we get one for the entire season to, just get a little glimpse at everything we accomplished, and that could definitely help with planning ahead for the next season. That's just speculation, so we'll have to, wait and see what this is actually going to look like once it's implemented, but I'm definitely excited to learn more about that. In terms of minor features for update 1.2b, we will have the return of torn pages. So this was a feature that was actually available very early on in early access. You would discover torn pages when hitting different clover spots around the world. These torn pages would provide a variety of different bits of information. You could discover the likes and dislikes of different characters. You could kind of uncover little bits of lore. Some of them were honestly just kind of fun reads. But because torn pages were removed at one of the updates, honestly, it might have even been post 1.0. I think it could have been version 1.1 when these stopped making an appearance. It kind of leads me to believe that they're wanting to revamp this system or at least expand upon it compared with what was already implemented. So I'm definitely curious to know what direction they're going with the torn pages. I definitely felt like there was probably a reason that they had removed the feature, so it's nice to know that it's not disappearing forever. It's just getting some kind of a refresh and re-implementation. Now, they also shared that they're going to be implementing improved fishing and improved combat. Now, I am very curious about the improved fishing mechanics because personally, I actually really like the fishing mechanics. So I don't know exactly what they're planning to improve. It could be like a rebalancing. It could be an expansion on the system in some way. I'm not sure what that's going to be. So I'm very curious about this one. Now, on the side of improved combat, I'm definitely on board with this. I do think combat is probably one of the weaker points in Coral Islands, in my opinion. I think it doesn't feel necessarily like as fun as I would like it to. It doesn't feel like you don't really feel contact with the enemies. It doesn't really have like weight to it. It's kind of like a floaty combat system. So I usually just play with combat off when I'm playing Coral Island and just, go through the mines, minding my business, collecting gems and rocks and all of that. And I only engage with combat when I actually have to for a quest. And honestly, I'm also okay with that. I'm okay with just not engaging much with the combat system, but honestly, it would be really nice to see that improved upon. I think there's a ton of room for improvement here, so I'm excited and hopeful to see how they choose to go about that. And then the other minor feature they're including with update 1.2 is gifts from pets. Now, I love this because, as it stands, the pets are very cute, but they don't really do much. And that's okay. They can just be cute. They can just exist and I'll still love them. We can pet them, so that's good. We can interact with them and develop that relationship with them. But other than that, there's not much to it. So I'm imagining that because we do have that heart system with the pets, so as you get closer with them, you do level up your number of hearts you have with them. Perhaps once you hit a certain heart milestone, you'll receive a gift from your pets. I think that is super cute and I definitely love that idea. So excited to see that as well. So that's what they've shared for update 1.2b. Now looking ahead to update 1.3, which is a really big one. Here we have some pretty major new features. So of course, first of all, we have the very highly anticipated feature of kids growing up. Right now in the game, there's the kids around town. So there's 4 children NPCs. And then you can also have your own kids, either with a dateable character or with another player. However, at this time, none of the kids will grow up. But that is a feature that has been in the works and has been planned from the very beginning as a stretch goal. So, we always knew this was going to be a post-release update because it was one of the bigger stretch goals for Coral Island when it was on Kickstarter. So it is exciting to see that we're getting closer to that actually being implemented. The kids will grow up. So that does include the townsfolk. So Zoe, Valentina, Archie, and Oliver, but also your kids that you have as the player. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later because the devs do expand a little bit on, why this feature is so involved and how exciting it's going to be. They're also going to be adding the Merfolk Festival, which initially I believe was planned for an earlier update, but it did get pushed back. And, I'm okay with that because I want it to be, a complete festival. I'm really excited to see what could possibly be the, celebration under the water in the Merfolk Kingdom. What will it involve? There's, most festivals have a mini game. They have a little seasonal or special shop. They will have a main event. There's usually a lot going on at these festivals. There's beautiful cutscenes and such. There's unique dialogue for all of the characters. This will definitely be one of the first things I'll want to check out when this update drops. Very surprisingly, there is going to be the implementation of a jealousy system. I was not expecting this at all because, in the past, a lot of folks had asked about, rival romance or jealousy, and the answer had always been no plans for it. And while this isn't a rival romance system, to be clear, I don't think, there is this jealousy system that's going to be implemented. So, your perspective on this may vary because I know as it stands, you can basically romance everyone with no consequences. But in the future, it seems like there may be some consequences. And honestly, I think that's pretty cool because first of all, it's way more realistic. Second of all, I think it'd be interesting to have a bit of varied dialogue and reactions to your choices from some of the different NPCs, because I do feel everyone's, for the most part, there's some folks that are a little rough around the edges, but most of the NPCs treat you very nicely and don't seem to react, if you're dating 10 different people. So I think this will be really, really interesting and will definitely spice things up on Coral Island. I'm really curious about how they're going to go about this, and I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this for sure in the comments. The final major feature that they're sharing here is a manual save feature. Now, this is something I know y'all have been asking for from like the very beginning, and I'm totally with you on this. You know, I used to not mind too much if you had to wait until going to sleep at the end of the day to save your progress, or if I wanted to save early, I would just go to bed early. Like, I didn't mind too much. But honestly, it would be really nice to be able to save at different points in your day. So if you have to stop playing, you know, partway through the day, you don't have to either call it early or lose your progress. So this is really, really awesome that they've clearly heard the feedback from everyone and are working on something for this. This is like huge quality of life from a player perspective. So very excited about this. We also have some minor updates that are planned for update 1.3. And honestly, to me, I would say this is major personally, because the first thing is drop in and out multiplayer. I do not know what this could possibly be. I am hopeful that it would be a system. I usually reference Luma Island because I feel like Luma Island has a really great multiplayer system where you can drop in and out. So you can have a community farm that many different folks can help out on. And over time, you can change up like who's, you know, participating there. So if you have a bigger group of friends or you want like a lower commitment kind of experience, you can have your save file and then you can have friends, like different friends drop in and drop out of that same save file over time. So if that's what they're planning for Coral Island, I will probably lose it because that means that we can all have like a shared farm together and you guys can drop in and out of that farm and we can actually progress like a save together. I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to get my hopes up, but that has honestly been one of my biggest disappointments with Coral Island multiplayer is that that's not a possibility at this time. So I'm not able to really like play the game with you guys like I would want to. So fingers crossed that that's actually what this means. I, again, don't want to get too excited, but I'm also really excited at the idea. Also, emojis and emotes is another thing I was super, super wanting and asking for and felt like was also missing from the multiplayer experience. So it looks like they're working on that too, which is just, like, I know it might seem like such a small thing, but you know, if you've played games with your friends, it makes such a big difference. Being able to do little emotes or use little emojis while you're playing with your friends can help you communicate, and it also just makes it so much more fun to like share that experience and get that extra level of interactivity and emotion really in your gameplay. So I'm so happy about this. Again, to me, this is major. Now, two other minor features for 1.3. Honestly, the more I'm reading this, these are all major in my eyes. But underwater marriage is planned as well. So that is so exciting because that would just, imagine how beautiful, right? An underwater marriage, I think that would just be so magical and so beautiful for your merfolk weddings. And then finally here we have family and kids hangouts. So that actually, you know, that's great to be planned alongside the kids growing up. I imagine that this would give us the opportunity to go on those sort of hangout events with, you know, your spouse and your kid or kids together. So I think that will be so precious and so charming and just adds so much more like personality and life to your end game experience. So I'm so excited about all this news. Definitely has exceeded my expectations for what's still to come for Coral Island. And then finally, we're going to go over the frequently asked questions to accompany this news. The first one is, why is the 1.3 update being split into two parts? And, you know, they're being very transparent. They shared that they're actually a bit behind on some parts and they don't want us to wait too long for an update. One of those parts is the portraits of the kids growing up. Believe it or not, for this update alone, there are over 700 unique portraits that need to be hand-drawn by a single artist. Never AI. Thank you, David. I know David is so talented. David does all of the portraits for all of the NPCs in Coral Island, and over 700 unique ones just for that update. I believe it, but that is a lot. So yeah, we will happily wait for that. They further said that since Coral Island uses 2D portraits instead of 3D models, it's important that all portraits are drawn by the same person to ensure harmony in style, coloring, and detail. Even small differences between artists would stand out, so every single portrait has to come from one hand. And a fun fact is that the current build, before the Kids Grow Up update, in that build, there's already over 2,000 portraits in the game, and each expression is its own unique painting, which I totally believe. And honestly, I feel like The portraits in Coral Island are one of the many things in the game that really, I feel like it really grabs the attention of us and, really brings so much life to the NPCs. It makes the characters feel so much more real. They each have those expressions and different outfits, and they're just so beautifully done. So I am so happy to continue waiting for all these portraits to be created. And then the other question was about the hotfix. So this is, in the past now, so they should have already released the cross-platform support hotfix with some bug fixes as well. But then they shared there's another hotfix in the queue that's going through external QA, which takes about 1 to 2 weeks. However, do keep in mind that after QA, it has to go to console certification. So they have to send it to PlayStation and Xbox to get certified there, which usually takes another week, and then it's ready to launch. But the patch that's already been released was fast-tracked to prioritize cross-platform support, and they kept the scope smaller so it could be tested faster, and it worked. And that's why that one could go out faster than, the rest of the 1.2 bug fixes. But honestly, the future for Coral Island is looking so, so bright. And they even shared that next month they're going to actually give us a little preview of what we can expect for the 1.2b update, which was this one here. So Haunted House, arcade minigames, tattoo shop, season recap, torn pages, improved fishing, combat, and gifts from pets. So as always, make sure you're subscribed to my channel with your notifications on so you don't miss out on any exciting Coral Island news. Again, please share your highlights from this news down in the comments, anything and everything. I always love hearing from you. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. And until next time, take care.